Currently, we have started this chapter in Indore so that we can share our knowledge for our the community and the local people can grow in this domain and they can also know about it. So we'll start with today's session. So first of all, so we have two speakers. First is Digvijay Singh, and second one is Amandeep Singh. So I would like to ask Digvijay to start. First, start with your introduction, then we can start with the session. Thank you.
Thanks, Arpit. Thanks for passing me.
Thank you.
Guys, myself, Digvijay Singh, and I'm working as a senior staff security engineer in OVO. Right now, so the OVO is a Singapore-based organization, and due to COVID situation, I'm working over from the India since last 1 year. I'm hoping for the good and hoping everybody will be staying safe and good. Before that, I used to work in a Visa and it's a credit and debit card company. Of course, everybody is knowing. So there, I used to work as a senior security engineer, and before that, I was also a part of Paytm journey where I used to take care about the entire Paytm infrastructure, pen testing, application security, and a couple of times doing the automations and other things for the Paytm also. And I started my career, I think so 7 years before from the Palladian as a junior security analyst. And my passion for the security started during my college time. And from there, I started to use a lot of college and illegal college activities in securities, and then it moved into the community and started to spread it the knowledge. I also used to hold a top 100 position in Bakraud as well as in the Senec across the globe, but now I stopped it because I'm focusing more about my learning and another things. So yeah, this is what pretty much about me. I'll be sharing. So let me share my screen so that you guys can understand what I'm trying to deliver it, and is it helpful for you guys or not. So basically, I'll be talking about the security automation and technology around it. So what exactly when I say that security automation and what are all the technologies? So do you guys know what exactly mean by the security automation and how you understand about the automation? Whether it is implementing a tool, whether it is implementing some kind of a scripts, or what are all the things? Do you guys know, and do you guys have any idea or anything? So please let me know. So, do you guys know about the security automation? Okay,
Hello.
let me move it. So basically, the views and the expression in these slides are my own, and it's from my experience. I have understood about what exactly the security automation. I am not going to claim anyone else, and on which places I can do the automation, and from which places we cannot do the automation. So there are certain area where we can achieve achieve the goal 100% through the automation, and we can mitigate it also. Couple of security vulnerabilities, couple of security incidents also by the automation. But for the couple of things we cannot do it. So that's what the security automation generally in a place. It's just a defined software life cycles as well as some processes and policies through which we can achieve it, and even in a forensic also or incident response investigations also we can do the security automation. So talking about the security landscapes for any new business as well as for the any old growing business, security is a critical it's you can say that it's a backbone for the any security. If you are defining any new business strategy, then obviously you should know about what exactly the security measures you should take care. Let's talk about the payment market. So since last 5 years, I have seen the across the APAC region, Asia region, as well as couple of European regions also, the payment and fintech market is growing exponentially. So obviously the security should be the first priority, as well as due to COVID situation, the healthcare sector is getting so much boom. So that also requires a security should be in a place. So we need to take a proper precautionary action, measurement, decision, by as well as the businesses along with the business strategy to do the security processor as well as security automation in place. So the automation requires, first you need to understand the requirement. What are all the requirements you should know? You should have a proper plan. You should have, once you have the plan ready, in the plan you should have a process also, so that when you are deploying, when you are uh, implementing any automation, it will not be a pain to security team, it will not be a pain to the developers team, or it will not be a pain to any of the team who is a part of that automation. Otherwise, I have seen, and I also failed a couple of times while doing the automation. It became a pain, and obviously the business and the process failed. So we should have a proper planning, so that we can scale the automation, so that we can construct the automation, and the result should be the end result should be happily for each and everyone. So that's what the plan should be in a place. So always think about the come with the better plan, and a better plan always contain a better process. So that's what the things. And of course your deliverable should be on a time, and you should fix the things properly if your automation is not in a place. And if it is a place also, it should not be, as I already discussed about. Now what exactly the security automation engineer should do, and what should have to do. The security automation engineer should not have the strategies like doing a core hardcore pen tester, or like an ethical engineer. He should have a mindset of dev, as well as he should have a mindset of DevOps, as well as he should have a mindset of security. When all these three things comes together, then only you will achieve your core security automation, else you will lag somewhere. If you are from the pen testing background, it's really good that you should also have a knowledge about the dev or DevOps, so that you understand about the pipelining cycles, and you also understand about how to write the code, what to automate and what not to automate. So if you have all these three skill sets in your hand, then obviously to everyone will say, yeah, you can go ahead and do the automation, and your automation might get success. Because the security automation engineer should have those process which lacks generally. As let's suppose if a pen tester have a core hardcore pen testing skills, but he lacks somewhere in the devs and DevOps. Let's suppose a DevOps engineer is going and doing the automation, then he lacks the pen testing skills. And on the same way, a developer lacks the skills of pen testing as well as DevOps. So these three skills you should have in hand, and then go ahead and do it. You will surely get successful deliverables in hand. So what today's agenda will be: what is the security automation, what are all the components we can automate, how we can automate, and what are all the components we cannot automate. Because there, as I already told you guys, there are a couple of areas which we cannot automate. It's a rudimentary, and it's a process by itself that we have to go through it. So let's understand about the security automation. So security automation is just like a programs or the code which we are going to write, or the tools which we are getting from the open source as well as the closed source community, and we are implementing those things to mitigate the threats, to investigate the threats, as well as to prioritize and the remediation parts, and also to alert with the different team. Talking about, let's say, we have in a security itself, we have a blue team and red team. Red team is just like pen testing, and then there is a area of gray team or a purple team. It's a very advanced term. So what purple team does is they are also a part of application security, and they are also part of a dev team. So their role is to go ahead and understand the security vulnerabilities and understand about what are all the process, and then they automate it. And once they automate it, so any vulnerabilities come, so it will automatically trigger the alert notification goes to security team along with the dev team, and who is the responsible dev team and who can fix it. And once it is fixed, then probably they can go ahead and present it as per the dashboards or anything. So basically, what are all the things we can do into the security automation? So the rudimentary security automation can be automation of SOC. So it's not about the implementing a SOC, installing a some SIM tools, and then manually each and every security analyst is raising the incident. So the major part in monitoring and detection is the automation should be automatically get detected. Your rules fine tuning, as well as your code should be written in a way that once you have collected the data, the first thing is you need to collect the data while you are implementing the automation into the detection. Then you should have proper alerting mechanism. The alerting mechanism not is the email, because nowadays people are not going with the email and all. Generally, when we talk about any startup or in a large scale enterprise, they have their own chat system, or they have their own bot system. What as an automation engineer I'll suggest is go ahead and create a bot. That bot will be responsible to give you the notification for any critical vulnerabilities or any incident is getting exposed, or anyone security script kiddie or someone is trying to run any tool. So those alerts and notification directly triggered to the bot on a real-time system. Then once the bot does all those things, then the threat investigation part. So you should have a proper, as I told you, collection of data. So you should have a proper data collection. Based on those historical data collection, the bot and your rules itself can do the threat investigation, and that threat investigation should drop either into the false positive and true positive, and quickly anyone in a manual way, also anyone who is in a night shift, day shift, or who is not even in a shift also can see and say that okay, this is a true positive and false positive incident. And that's also once the investigation is done, threat or incident response can be quickly covered over there. Who need to go ahead, need to follow the entire incident response life cycle and everything. So through the bot you can achieve all those things. Now the permission management is like something like IAM policies, or there are nowadays people are using a lot of cloud technologies. So what exactly the cloud technologies? Generally, when we have to integrate any application, and also in a past history, a lot of auth and auth Z vulnerabilities are getting exposed, and that vulnerability requires a permission issue. So instead of giving code level permission for each and every API and URL, try to integrate any third party or any IAM solution that itself. First, the request will land from the application perspective. The request will land to that IAM technology, IAM solution, and then IAM solution will categorize it. What exactly the roles and the grouping is given for that particular application along with the particular user. If the application has given, or the IAM solution has given the roles and roles for viewing and for editing, probably you can go ahead and do it. So that's where you can achieve the automation for the permission IAM related issues and the application and business continuity. So your application and business continuity should be in a way that if any disaster plan or anything can come up, you should have a one-click solution, where the one-click solution can switch your entire traffic from one point to another point. The entire traffic can be from your one WAF to another WAF, from your one server to another server. So this is completely about the DevOps technology, which we are trying to implement it into the security, because obviously security is not just to prevent the data, it also prevent the business continuity and to prevent the business from uncertain loss. So let's understand about the 3-tier architecture, what exactly the 3-tier architecture. So guys, you are familiar about any 3-tier architecture. So the idea of this 3-tier architecture is the internet and the firewall, and then there is some DMZ. Yeah, DMZ. Or if you don't have any DMZ right now the people are using the public API gateway or any other kind of gateway, and then they're keeping the IDS IPS system, and then the authorized authentication and authorization like IAM solution or any other solution, the application core DB and the cache DB, because this architecture generally refers to the payment as well as from the e-commerce perspective, because this is a very growing market, and I hope every third person right now is working in this domain and area. So this generally
Digvijay, I guess sometime sometimes IDS and IPS comes before the internet, right?
Yeah,
Sometimes
correct,
only.
correct. Sometime because yeah, that's what, because we are keeping the DMZ as well as public API gateway. You are correct. Sometime it comes, but when the load and the load is very heavy, then the DMZ should be in a place and the API gateway to handle those load. That's why we keep IDS and IPS behind. But yeah, correct. In a small or medium enterprise, we can keep the IDS and IPS front also, because IDS and IPS has their own bandwidth to handle the traffic. That's why we always, we suggest to keep it behind it. And before that, you keep it any WAF solution, any DMZ solution, or any public API gateway to filter the unnecessary or noisy traffic. That's why I kept it that IDS and IPS behind it. But correct, we can do it now.
All
Uh,
right.
yeah. Now to understand about this is what the major architecture I myself feel that, and I prepared it. What you guys can say? What are all the attack surfaces on layman term? If I ask what should be the attack surface, can you guys tell me, anyone, what could be the attack surface? If
See, there could be so many attack surface, like
Mhm.
someone can run so many payloads like SQL injection, XSS, SSRS. Someone
So I'm
can
not.
run a directory traversal
Yeah, yeah.
like this.
I'm not asking about the vulnerabilities. I'm asking the attack surfaces.
So the
When,
attack surface Digvijay would be all the public API
correct.
gateway
Correct,
and
correct,
LPI.
correct, correct. So basically, the attack service could be the application level as well as network level. When I talk about the network level, then the entire infrastructure could be your network level, which is exposed. Now, when I say that the application level, then the application, what are all the applications are exposed? Whether the application subdomain, domains, your authentication, authorization servers, even sometime your DB IP get exposed or anything. So this could be your attack surfaces. So basically, the attack surfaces can be categorized into two terms. And drilling down the line, we can say that okay, in application level, you can have subdomains there. You can have any public directory, or you can have any particular vulnerability in any application. So that things comes under the application level attack surfaces. And when talking about the network level, then probably we are not protected with IPS, we are not protected with IS, or any WAF services, or any kind of services which generally used to protect for your network. So these are the network level. Now we can categorize the attacks. What are all the attacks we can perform on application level? What are all the application we can attacks we can perform on a network level? If I'm correct, guys. So do you agree with my points? What I have?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go and understand about the network level. So the network level is generally your perimeters. So we should understand. That's why I told you should have a proper plan, and based on the plan, you should have a process in place. Then only you can go ahead and do the automation. So let's talk about the network side. So network side is generally all the perimeters devices. What are all the perimeters devices? Your IDS, your IPS, even your public DMZ, or anything which is getting exposed through the public IP, anything. So that is your network level attack surfaces, and sometimes it can be application level. So you should know what are all kinds of attack you are facing. If you don't know your enemy, then you already lose your 50% of battle. So first you should know about your enemy. How you will know about your enemy is by getting the data. So you should have a data ready, the raw data. So how you will get all those raw data? Collecting all those raw data from the different sources, pushing those data into somewhere else. So this is like a high level SOC environment. I mean, if you guys already you guys know, okay, I'm talking about the SOC, but let's go understand what are all the differences in this and this, as well as a traditional SOC. So when I talk about the SOC, then people say, okay, we have implemented this enterprise, this enterprise application, like any top 5, top 10. But I'm not completely talking about the tool. I'm talking about the automation point of view. So I'm not using any enterprise tool. What I'm using is generally the DevOps. What DevOps generally uses, like Elk system, like any log processor, or any open source tools. Once we have the data ready and the data pipeline is ready, I'll go and do the filtering and I'll apply the log analysis based on the my risk, because each company, each organization has a different pattern of security attacks and they have their own security risk. So in cases in some cases SQL injection can be a low risk because there is no data behind the application, or the data which is not fruitful for me. So that's how we can do it by our own risk rating. And once the risk rating and the dashboarding and everything is enabled, now I have only 3 security engineer in my team, and they cannot work in a 24/7 environment. So what I will do is, any guys can have any idea? Okay, I will explain in upcoming slides. So I have the data ready. I have filtered the data. I have proper log analysis. I have given the risk rating and each and everything. Now I know what are all the types of attacks coming from, what are all the sources, and probably I can go ahead and block those attacks also. So this is like more like the open source SOC or open source, or by my own design through my code or through my log analysis I have created and everything. Now it's time to do the prevention and it's time to do the incident response, how I will do it. So as I told you, you should have a proper bot system which can notify you even in a midnight also, not through the email or not through any other means, some bot application. And through that bot, if you respond to that, it will automatically get as a responded, and the certain IP, certain attack will get automatically blocked. So that's called the active response, not just an incident response, the active response. The active response is something even in a midnight, I am at my home and I can respond it over the bot, and bot will close or block that incident for a particular time of period. So this is more about the data point of view. Let's suppose I have the data. So when I called it the data, so the data can be your network traffic, your HTTP, your HTTPS, your system files, SSH emails, those data, and even sometimes it can be your network PCAP file. So these data can be properly parsed and configured and categorized it, and then you can put these data inside any data pipeline. The data pipeline can be the messaging queue like a Kafka, or can be a Logstash, or anything. Once it is moved, once the filtered data is moved inside that, then probably you can apply your threat intelligence capabilities and store it. And the threat intelligence capabilities can be, the great example is ALK system, which I really liked it. Those things we can do it, and the data can be stored it for a long period of time, and through the dashboarding we can see it. Now coming back to the application level sides of attack. So the application level sides of attack, what kind of security vulnerabilities we need to cover it, and what kind of security vulnerabilities we cannot cover it. So basically, in application side, you should have a proper SDLC implemented from your left hand side into the pipeline side by getting the design and requirement ready. Once you have the design and requirement ready, then you can go ahead and implement it with any enterprise SDLC or SaaS solution, or the open source. There are tons of open source also, but obviously you need to bang your hand with those technologies, then only you will get the fruitful result. And I am pretty much sure that from my past experience, most of the vulnerabilities are already the hard-coded vulnerabilities. Through changing some flags into the codes or changing or tweaking the codes, you can fix those vulnerabilities. So the category of the vulnerability which you can get it from the SDLC side is like XXE, when you have your code is written into the Java, to the .NET, PHP, or in any language. So XXE is generally the vulnerability which occurs due to the parsers. And the parsers, if we have given the parsers flag into true, then only the entity goes and to the read. So this is the first thing. And through the simple SDLC tool, you can get it, those vulnerabilities, even if you haven't defined the proper rules into the SDLC tools. The second vulnerability is CSRF vulnerability. Is just a token, or it's just the way the vulnerability works. If anyone has not implemented any anti-CSRF token or double cookie submission or anything, then that can be done. The XSS vulnerabilities or HTML injection is just an input validation vulnerability. It already comes under the input validation. So wherever the input is given, if the developer has not given a proper input validation, then this can occur. Now the SQL injection is a very simple, or sometimes it can be a blind SQL injection also. So that can also, we can get it through those vulnerabilities. Authentication and authorization, obviously, if we have the session inside the code, we have not given the proper session and cookie, then these vulnerabilities occur. So these things can be can also get it through the secure development life cycle. And let's suppose if these vulnerabilities got occurred and the developer has fixed. So sometimes what developer does is they write a separate filter. So in that case, a security engineer should go ahead and ask to the developers, hey, where you have fixed it or not, and if they can tell to you that the separate filter or the any mechanism, prevention mechanism in place, then probably you can go ahead and mark it as a false positive. So this can be from the application level side. You can get it done, and these are the top 5 vulnerabilities which you always get it through the secure development lifecycle, and you can fix it even your application get released. Now the implementation part for what are all the automation you can do it. So to implement those things, you should have once you have the proper plan ready. In the plan, you should define that what are all the tools you are going for your development, what are all the technologies you are going to use it, and what are all the environments you have, and does that environment is properly hardened. Let's suppose if I am using the any of open source technology for my SOC environment and active response, and my environment is not compatible, then that might be other challenge and you will get it failed. And let's suppose if my environment is compatible, but the tools, the technologies are associated to my environment, and also the environment or the tools and technologies are not properly hardened. Talking hardened means you should not use the plain vanilla version. You should have some sort of protection, so that once you have implemented those things, your system itself will not get compromised. So these 3 things you should always keep in mind, that before going or before directly jumping into your security automation. So I'm not going to talk about the tools because there are a couple of proprietary as well as there are a couple of open source. If you guys need any recommendation, then probably you can feel free to ask me. And there are a lot of open source, and I always believe in open source technologies. So you can ask me through different open source tools. You can integrate it and you can do it. I myself has done a lot of automation for those things, and probably I can help you. And moving forward, if required, then probably we will be discussing about more detail about the tools, technologies, how we can implement it separately, because it's a deep dive area. Now let's go and understand about once you have the implementation and once you have done everything, you should have a proper verification. How you are going to do the verification part for the security and security testing. So if from your left hand side there is a security testing called black box and white box. This is generally done by the pen testers. We are not talking about all those things because this is not a part of a security automation area. It's just a verification part into the pipeline. So the code analysis part, which I have already discussed, those 5 vulnerabilities you can get it easily. But in a dynamic analysis, you will get a lot of false positive also. So instead of false positive, you always focus on low hanging fruits. Once you focus on low hanging fruits, then you will end up with the high severity vulnerability fixes. Because let's suppose I have my application is vulnerable to accesses, and I didn't fix the accesses vulnerability. Instead, what I fixed is some low hanging fruits like HTTP, like some flags which if those flags are properly implemented, like anti-XSS frame or anti cookies, if those flags are properly mitigated into the low-hanging environment or into your application environment, then even if even if my application is vulnerable to XSS, I won't be able to retrieve those cookies, and the risk will be very minimal. If the risk will be very minimal or negligible, then also you can say that okay, we are I think so good to go. But there might be some risk. Those risks you need to identify it, and those risks can be network level risk through the accesses. Someone can perform the DDoS, but your threat or your attack vector should have that much capability. So those are a very less risk. Now, I was talking more about the incident response. So I also talked about what are all the things we can do it in a so there is a difference when we do the automation for the SOC, when we not do the automation for the SOCs. So if you have seen, there are large number of people works in a SOC. So what they generally do is they do the incident response for their clients. They do the threat intelligence, and they do a lot of things. But what if a company has started, and the company is a fintech company, and they don't have that much budget, or they are not aware, and they have just for the sake they have 4 or 5 security engineers. So how you can do it? So to achieve those things, probably you can go ahead and you can write your own bot. You can use the third-party solution like a Slack bot or any Discord bot if your organizations apply it. Or you can use any ticketing system. So the Jira ticketing system. So as soon as you get the incident, so as soon as your tool or your ELK system or your SIM system raise the incident, it will automatically create a Jira, and the Jira or the Slack bot or any other bot will notify to the user, even he is not in a shift or he is somewhere enjoying his holiday. He will get the notification, and as soon as he will respond to it, so your incident response life cycle will also cover. And once he will respond it, probably that response can say that it's a false positive, it's a true positive. And if it's a true positive, then the other team member or the different verticals who are also part of that particular application or network can go ahead and can start doing the investigation manually also. And sometimes the investigation can also be automated. So this is how we can achieve it through the automation. And this is just a next level of automation into the SOC as well as to the application security also. So guys, so far you have any question or anything, any concern? Hello?
Digvijay, I think we have some questions in the chat.
Let me see, because I was not looking for the chat. Okay, I'm beginner. Okay. Let's start. Slackbot and PagerDuty setup for a proper incident handling. Yes, we can do. I myself has done a lot of Slackbot and PagerDuty solution, Mandeep, for incident and proper incident handling, as well as you can do it through the incident response also. So through that way, you will feel your life will be very easy. And yeah, the second one, when you are using ELK similar solution, how do you achieve the bot integration? Okay, so you can use the ELK system. If you are using the plain vanilla ELK system, then you need to write your own Slackbot module or Discord module. It's just a couple of lines of Python script or a Go script. I myself prefer the Go script, and that script will always read your risk severity from the data pipeline. And once that is ready, probably you can go ahead and get the notification over your bot. I am beginner. I am getting what you are explaining. Can you tell me how I learn all this to start the journey? Okay, this is really Palak, this is really good question, and I am still learning. But you need any help from me, probably I can help you. But yeah, you can go ahead and start exploring if you are from a SOC background, or if you are from like a developer or pen tester background, then probably I'll recommend it. Choose any one area, go ahead, learn it. From the SOC background, first you need to understand about the open source technology like ELK system, like a Wazoo system, like HDFS system or Kafka system. Because those are the log processing, queuing, pipelining. And if you are from the developers or the pen tester background, then first understand about the vulnerabilities, try to read the vulnerable code, and then go ahead and implement the SaaS solution, DAS solution, because then only you will get a very good understanding, and then you can say that you have done some, and you can implement it over the cloud also through your local system or through your own environment. Hey Digvijay, can you please give me some insight on this? I have been into web pen testing and bug bounty since 3 years. We would love to explore into the DevSecOps, practical DevSecOps certificate. Yeah, you can go ahead and do, but frankly speaking, I am not any certified. I just completed my master's from VIT, and after that I was done because I have spent a lot of money, and I personally won't. A lot of people has recommended me to go for OSCP and other stuff, but I personally won't. But sometimes it has its own drawback also. You need to consider those drawbacks. If you are ready to consider those drawbacks, then you start your learning. Otherwise, you can go ahead for the certification also. And this is a really good certification. Probably if you want to go, then I'll recommend it. So can you please share some resource? Probably guys, I'll share some resources over the WhatsApp group. Then you can go ahead and start reading it. And I am completely beginner. So Palak, I told you, if you are completely beginner, then you need to choose any one area. You cannot blindly throw the stone into the dark. You need to first find out the area, and then you need to work. It's same like when we study into the class. Before class 10th we used to study, and then suddenly we go into the class 11th high school or college. Then we need to do it by our own. We need to choose a area under which area you want to do specialization. So it's something like this. Probably the chapter leaders will share the group link. What are all the best tools for automatic security? So there are a lot of tools. You can use the SonarQube open source. You can use the Zenitor. You can use, if your company has a proper budget, then you can go for the enterprise tools also. So these tools are all provide the almost same results. You need getting handy tools won't give you the fruitful result until and unless you are not able to understand what exactly the vulnerability and where the vulnerability is, because your job will be to go ahead and to explain to the developers. And on the same time, you should have exploiting capabilities also. Then only they will understand it. Okay, so this was I was talking about incident response, blue team, and threat modeling. What are all the things we cannot automate? Obviously, for every large scale organization, threat modeling is a very beginning. Pen testing is almost the second stage of completion of any application, and the bug bounty, when you are completely exposed to the world and the different researchers comes and do their work in a different environment, and provide a lot of critical vulnerabilities which are in a wild. So these things you cannot expect from any automation engineers, because the threat modeling is something which I was explaining to you in my first or second slide, and asked about the attack surface. So attack surface is a part of threat modeling. You need to understand about the different attack surfaces. This you cannot do it. This will be the part of plan, but you cannot do it manually into the application side. And the pen testing, obviously there are a lot of OSCP folks, so they know the hard code. They are the hardcore pen testers, so they know how to do the pen testing. So we cannot do the automation because it's their brain who works, and we cannot automate any brain. And the bug bounty is something like a pen tester, but pen tester has a fixed scope, and bug bounty has not a fixed scope. Any bug bounty engineer, any bug bounty hunter can run any kind of automation, any kind of tools, technologies, or anything which can sometime harms to the production environment and sometime not. But for pen tester, needs to take care of all those things while performing the pen testing. Otherwise, in many cases, I have seen couple of folks, they lose their jobs also because of critical environment and legacy environment. So these things we need to take care about this. We cannot, if someone is asking, hey, can you do the automation? Go ahead and give a straightforward answer. No, we cannot automate. Threat modeling is a theoretical area. Theoretical security. Pen testing is a completely a brainstorming area. Bug bounty is next step of brainstorming along with the technologies without any permission. So these things you cannot do it through the automation, through the automations. And now, guys, for any manual intervention or for any large scale application or SOC area or anything which you want to do, even in a forensic also, you can do you can achieve the automation, and you can reduce the noise, and you can make people's life happy. Because as a security automation engineer, your first job is to make your life very easy through the automation. And once you feel that your life is easy, then you can see around you will find out, okay, almost every second developer, almost every second security engineer, or even a program manager, you made their life easy, and everyone will go ahead and ask you how you did it, and they will clap for you. So this is what the high level understanding about the security automation, you can achieve it. Now, there are tons of things in each and every area and each and every component which you need to deal it by your own through your skill sets and what you learn on a daily basis. Automating a process is not just a writing. Sometimes automating a process is to use a third-party tool also. And first you need to understand your environment, how you are going to do it smartly so that it won't impact to your systems, to the other system, and to the people's life. And sometimes it requires how smartly you write scripts or code also. That also gives you a lot of insight and gives you a fruitful result. So this is what I have learned since last couple of years from my experience, and I'm still learning, and I'm really thankful, guys, you have given me the opportunity to present from my experience. And do let me know, even if I lack somewhere, probably I'm ready for the feedbacks and anything. If you want a more deep dive for each and every component, probably in future I'll go ahead and present it.
Yeah, so Digvijay, it was a good session, and we'll get a lot of insights.
Hello. I had a question. I'm sorry. So, so when you say, right, we can write a Python tool basically to get the data out of ELK, right?
Yeah.
I just wanted a bit of focus on that. So, are you saying that with HTTP method we'll get the typical in the pattern, certain pattern has to be matched, and based on that it should create an escalate a bot or something like that? That's what you're saying?
Yeah, correct. Well, so you first you need to, first you need to ingest the data into the NEOP ELK pipeline. You define the alerting, you define the indexing through your Python code. What are all the parameters you want to go ahead and define it into your indexing. Once the indexing is ready, then inside your code or from the dashboard of Kibana, you can define what are all the things should give a high severity alert or the low severity alerts.
That is detection and alerting, right?
That's this detection as well as the alerting, because once I have done the detection, I'll write a couple of lines of code and put it in and give any third party API key or any endpoint for my botting system, and it will alert. So first thing you need to identify is the indexing, whether the indexing is done properly or not. Once the indexing is done, you need to define the severity risk rating system. The risk rating system could be a straightforward, or you can give it hard coded also, or you can write it dynamic also. And once this is done, then you can give a alerting.
Okay, are these possible in the community version? I mean, like, I thought enterprise had all the features.
No. You can, you can connect me separately. I will tell you the tool name here. You can go ahead and do it through the HDFS systems also. You can do it through the Cortex and Hives also, and you can do it. You can achieve it through the Vasu system also.
Okay, I'll connect you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
It was really informational. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much.